This week, we're looking at becoming the person you were meant to be. Welcome back. This series is the path of sovereign integration. We've looked at grounding, recognition, truth, intuition, clearing, completion. But now something else happens, something different. And once these patterns and this trauma, these wounds stop running your life, things start to change. And this is where we start to see who we actually are and what our life was meant to be. Welcome to the Mindfuckery Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth, a trauma healer, author, and founder of the Inner Healing Sanctuary. The Mindfuckery Podcast has been recognised by FeedSpot as one of the top 20 emotional abuse podcasts worldwide and number 3 in the UK for domestic violence. This show has also been featured by Million Podcasts among the best on narcissistic abuse, coercive control and complex trauma. I've walked this path myself. I know the pain, the confusion, the endless questions with no real answers. I've spent over 20 years as a woundologist, creating practices like wound talking and the original wound to help people like yourself clear past life wounds, ancestral trauma and this life wounding. Here we go deeper, looking for the emotional and ancestral wounds to break the cycles of shame, abandonment and betrayal and reclaiming every part of you. Each episode is an invitation to release, repair and return to yourself. And when your whole being whispers, enough of carrying, enough of looping, enough of bypassing, enough of rumination, enough of blaming myself. The next step is simple, a soul alignment call. In this call, I will attune to your field, sense what's alive for you right now, and map out your journey and where it begins. We all have different stories. Perhaps the theme is actually something very similar. When I was working with people going through and healing emotional abuse, they're just coming out of that relationship. And the statement was, is this the same person? A group I used to run, again, a similar statement. Were you married to my husband? Because the pattern seemed the same. A lot of the work I do now is around these emotional wounds, these reactions, living in survival and calming down the nervous system, coming out of the head into the body where it's safer. This week we're looking at the blueprint, about the life that you were born to live that perhaps you haven't. It might be that you haven't had the opportunity. It might be that you were living a life under the rules of someone else. And whether that comes from your parents or from a partner, these patterns continue in relationships. And this could be generational, passed through the generations, grandparent to parent to child, and going much further back. And the shame shifting through the family patterns, the abandonment that can shift through, the betrayal, these emotions that are passed on, these family statements that are passed down that are limiting who you are. And these statements are like shackles, trapping you, keeping you in the lane that's of somebody else's life, not your own. This wasn't the blueprint that you were given. This is something that you've come to heal and to clear for future generations. This is my belief. So as we start to heal these wounds, as we start to clear the trauma, as we start to calm the nervous system down, we become more grounded. We can start to think. The fog lifts. We might feel out of place. Our nervous system is feeling off because it's feeling things that are unfamiliar. Our reactions don't fit anymore. You might feel calmer. Relationships change. People might say you've changed. And it might be that actually you don't want what everybody else has got. You don't want what you thought you wanted. It might be that you actually feel different and you actually don't know who you are yet. And this is where stopping and slowing down, stepping out of that, being in survival, healing and doing the work helps shift your identity. And this might feel really unfamiliar and really uncomfortable, like wearing a wetsuit that's like 3 or 4 sizes too small. And maybe that's what your life felt like when you were living it. It didn't fit, or you didn't fit. Now we step into this bit like no man's land. The wetsuit's off. You can start to breathe a bit more. But then there are no instructions. You don't know what to do. Who do you follow? You don't want to go backwards, but you don't know how to go forwards. And that is the perfect place to be. I saw a video once, or an interview, and I actually don't know the person being interviewed, but he was saying, how do you know you're on the right path? And he said, because it disappears. That's how you know. You can't see where you're going. That's how you know. Everything that you've learnt or lent on for your identity has been taken away. It's gone. And he said you're going to enter this place of self-doubt as the same time that you're setting about on your journey, this new path you're going to take. And what we need to do is go back, this time to the root. But this root is our blueprint. This is the foundation of what we came here to do. And I've said on many, many podcasts and YouTube videos, I believe we are here to heal the wounds of our ancestors, our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents, and to say, that's it, it's done. This generational line is no longer taking this forward, and it stops with me. And this is why you might have had that calling to say, enough, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. Show me a different way. This is where we need to be gentle. This is where our nervous system might go back into survival mode. This is the elastic band that, when stretched, goes back to its original form. But remember, when we stretch an elastic band over a period of time, it loses the elasticity. So when we push out, we might come back. When we branch out, when we step out, we might find ourselves stepping back into safety until everything feels safer in the body. Our body is a big indicator. Our body tells us, it talks to us all of the time. Something feels uncomfortable. You might be reading other people's energies. Something feels unsafe. Someone feels unsafe. And this is about listening to the body, but knowing whether you're in an unsafe environment or a safe environment, but it's just unfamiliar. And because it's unfamiliar and you still might be on high alert, it's knowing how to come back to self, come back to ground, to nurture, and take a smaller step. Or have that conversation with yourself, explaining that you are safe and you are protected. And this is one of I think it's in my self-help download, free download. I can't remember now. I'm going to have to go back and have a look, but I think it's in there. Creating an area within your home that's safe is crucial, because it's giving messages and showing your body where safety lies, and it's sending messages to say, every time I walk to this corner, or every time I come into this room, or every time I'm in this area, I'm safe. Your nervous system are like little soldiers, protecting you. And it's more or less saying, you can stand down now for a moment. You can take a rest. And that is what we really, really need. Having our nervous system on high alert constantly is extremely unhealthy. Stress is great and it's really beneficial. It keeps us alert. It keeps us on our toes. However, that is only in short bursts. When we are in a stressful situation continuously, even when we're sleeping, our body is on high alert, and that is where it becomes dangerous. Our identity was built around protection and survival. So the blueprint is taking us right the way back to the beginning, unloading or offloading all of these things that we've been told, changing, reframing everything that we thought was ours, dropping the roles like capes and fancy dress costumes, and finally stepping into the power. You might be asking, what is the blueprint? The blueprint is or a blueprint is, if you look at, say, an architect or builder, it was drawing of a house or a building or something, a structure. Our blueprint is what we're here for. Our blueprint is our essence of who we are. When I trained as a spiritual life coach, back in 2010, I think it was 2009, 2010, I think it was. And I learnt a modality called soul plan reading. And that is the connection and energy of our names. What we're here to learn, what we're here to do. It described the goals and it described the challenges that we may face in life, but it also gave and showed the talents. And these are the energies that we brought in through birth name. And there can be various deviations, if a child's adopted or a name change and things like that. But if we look at the name that you come in with, and you bring in a set of challenges, this is things that you need to grow from and you need to learn. And then we pull in the talents. These are the things that we come in with that help us overcome the challenges. And it's knowing how to pull this all together. And then the goals and the soul purpose, and showing us and guiding us why we're here and what our purpose is. And then at the end of the session, we'd go back to the original blueprint and we do a healing meditation and clearing to remove all the limitations, everything that had been seen and heard and passed through, clearing the way for you to step directly into or go back to that blueprint and start with a fresh sheet. This might be a calling that you felt within your soul, within your body, something you've always wanted to do. It might be a calling to do something like I was drawn to write books. My first book, Finding Lily, just fell out of me. I was sat on a beach in Greece. It was a very weird situation, actually, at the time. I'd gone away a week before my now ex-husband, and I was with my children, but I was self-isolating. I wasn't with them during the day. We'd meet in the evening, and there was a lot of self-sabotage going on. But there was some weird stuff also going on in the background, like my husband wouldn't talk to me during the week that I was there. There was a feeling of punishment. It was very weird. But anyway, so I went down with a pad and a piece of paper, no phone, and this story just downloaded out of me. And it was something that had happened to me many years before. I think at that point it was something like 26, and the pain, the trauma, the emotions that were falling out of me. And as I was writing it, I actually saw the pattern. I actually saw it from a different angle. I saw it from a different perspective. And then my ex-husband turned up, and my daughters went home a few days later with their partners, and we then spent a few weeks in Greece. We were there for 4 weeks. Loneliest time of my life, the most beautiful place, but walking on eggshells, discovering different situations. I was talking to somebody and we were sitting having a drink one evening, and she was like, and she said, oh, actually I side with Liz. I think, that behaviour, blah blah blah. And I thought, oh my God, what does she know? What has she been told? What conversations have they had? What has he been saying? I was in survival mode. So once I'd got back and we'd separated, and I was able to remove some bits from the book that I'd put in, really fawning around him. And from there, after and around the divorce, I started writing the A to Z of emotional abuse. I was looking for content for my YouTube channel. That's how I started. I started recording these mini videos. It was Christmas time, and that then led to an article that I had published, and then that led to the book that I wrote, The A to Z of Emotional Abuse, where I was able to put more emotion into it, as in how it feels through, say, the cycle of abuse, or what triangulation feels like, or projection. So I was able to use, and this is actually from my soul plan, one of my talents in that description. And then once the divorce was over, it took a little bit of time. I think I published the A to Z after the divorce. That was published at the beginning of 2020. And then I wrote Divorce Matters, because to me that was really important. I could see the manipulation, I'd experienced the manipulation, games that were being played, things that I told my ex-husband at the beginning of our relationship were then being used on me. And I was reacting rather than responding. And this is about stepping into your power. This is about discovering what your purpose is. I was discovering and working with the core wounds, the 3 core wounds that I believe other wounds stem from. And I'm able to communicate and help people communicate with their wounding. And from there, also showing them and guiding them ways that they can communicate. And also things like the honest conversations that I discovered that I was able to have with my inner child, and rewire and reframe some of the things that I'd heard growing up. This is the generational repatterning, and also being able to reparent myself in a way that I needed, the childhood that I needed. And then you come to that point, that pause in your life, and it's like, oh, the path's fallen away, what next? And this is the ideal time to sit and to rest and allow the blueprint to re-emerge and give you the path forward, or show you or guide you to that path. This is where you've seen the loops, the contracts are ending, survival isn't running as much or anything. Let's hope we're at this point where survival isn't running our life anymore. We are taking the reins, we are taking control. And as I said, this new pathway is being illuminated. It's something shining and guiding us forward. I've always been so very grateful for the journey. It was painful. What I experienced during that relationship, that last relationship, was like having a big light and showing me all of the wounding and allowing me to go back, and also illuminating other relationships. So I could see the patterns. I could see where this came from. I could see these characters that were actually very similar characters, showing me what needed healing. And so I was eternally grateful. There were moments that I wasn't, but overall, I was so grateful. I even said to my ex-husband as we were separating, or just before we separated, I thanked him for breaking me open and allowing that light to shine in. It was an emotionally painful journey that I believe was so worthwhile. Beneath your scars, those emotional wounds, lie your original plan, your original blueprint. And what we're doing is we're clearing the debris away. We're blowing the dust off, and we're taking hold of that now and reading it and looking and discovering and leaning in to the life that we were born to live. And as always, I'm sending you loads and loads of love until next time.